Honorable members, order. Can we have one meeting? So we'll give you 15-20 minutes of your time if you need all of it, just to hear from your side. I'm sure maybe and there you've been listening to or following the proceedings. You hear your views over the same, and then they will allow the members of this committee to ask questions. If at all there will be any, and then we'll close. So, Honorable Minister, you can start as and when you are ready.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And once again, it's a pleasure to be before this committee, which is examining the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan, and doing so under the framework of the annual progress report, meaning what progress can we report in the past year. I believe that the officers that came before me, they went through the various items very extensively, and therefore the 15 minutes that you said is available to me, I don't really need that. It will be, I think, more useful for me to hear the comments and the questions from the members. Perhaps all I can say myself is that as you did here before, in terms of the financial outlays, in other words, what money did we budget for implementation of the development plan, and what was actually released, I am quite satisfied that to a very high degree, the financial outlays have been made for the implementation of the 8th National Development Plan. I think we all know that in matters such as this, disbursement of money is very important, because one of the problems that we've had in the past, starting from the few years after independence, was that the development plan said one thing, but the financial plan to implement that plan and also the financial releases were obviously not always in tandem. In many cases, they went in the opposite direction. This is why we had some of the problems that we've been observing over the years. The money did not follow the plan. Now the money has followed the plan. However, there are still challenges. Challenges in the sense that even when money is released, sometimes spending it is a problem. I think a typical example of this is CDF. Right from the very start, CDF has been released in full. Okay, but we all know, I think, as members of parliament who follow CDF very carefully, the spending of that money has been moving slowly, in many cases too slowly. Okay, in many cases too slowly. Some of that has been due to legal provisions, regulations, which did not foresee so much money being available, and also just historical reasons. But those are being addressed. Okay, those are being addressed. I believe my colleague, the Minister of Local Government, will be coming to the House to see how we can change the law to make it more conducive for the implementation of CDF. So implementation, even when money is there, has been a problem, and that is being addressed. But the other thing that we are seeing, is in certain cases money being misapplied. I was in my constituency just about a month ago, and one of the things that confronted me was the issue of the utilization of the school grants. If you recall, when the government made a pronouncement that education would be free all the way up to grade 12, government abolished the school fees that used to be charged or levied before on the students. Instead of those fees, the government provided school grants, and the instructions were very clear. These school grants, as they go to school, headmasters must sit with fellow teachers. Headmasters must sit with Parent-Teachers Association, report the amount of money that has come, and together jointly do a budget on how that money is going to be utilized. But both in my constituency and also listening to colleagues here in Parliament, there's been a tendency for headmasters not to share information with the PTAs and not even with fellow teachers. And arising out of that, all types of allegations are being made about the misuse of money. So this is just an example of where money is made available, but the utilization of the money goes questionable. Third thing, of course, even when we eventually get all these things together, because we are pushing to make sure that they align, it's not enough to spend money hiring teachers. It's not enough money. It's not enough to spend money building classrooms, buying desks. Those are just facilitators. The ultimate is, are the school children, if I can give the example of education, are the school children coming out of classrooms absorbing the knowledge which should be imparted to them as we would expect? As we would expect. In certain cases, I'm sure that is happening, but in many other cases, yes, we've hired teachers, yes, we're building classrooms, yes, we're buying desks, but the quality of education being imparted is still not to the expectation that we would have. So these are just examples of what my earlier point, the key point which I'm making, that I'm happy that money is less of the problem now because it's being released as we budget, as we intended, but there are also other issues that are emerging. Let's not give up. This is a journey to perfection. In the same manner that we've all agreed that money for important things must be put on the table, it has not been an easy thing. It has been a fight. It has been persistence. The next thing is all of us, as members of Parliament, as society, to make sure that this money is used to implement the development plan in all the spheres. So I call upon the members of Parliament to work with the government. The issue of, just to give again the example of the school grants, obviously we are going to go around to check. If any of you colleagues, and spread the word to your colleagues this afternoon, if any of you has suspicion that in your constituency school grants are being misapplied, please pass that information to me this afternoon, which I'll pass over to the Secretary to the Treasury for follow-up. So tell your colleagues, if you suspect in any of your schools that school grants are being misapplied, being misused, give us the name of that school, And then the Secretary to the Treasury and the staff will make a follow-up. Because what we want, all of us, is to make sure that our children, and indeed, wherever we spend money, there's value for money. We see the ultimate. Mr. Chairman, let me end here and look forward to responding to your questions.
Okay, honorable members, it's now time for us to ask questions. Well, if at all we have any questions, but also just on a note from the members, honorable ministers, we are also wondering if you have any. But anyway, maybe there's a comment you give us why the position is like that. But let's start with maybe questions. Honorable members, let's take 3 at a time. So I see 2, 3 hands. Okay, we'll start with okay, so now I have to balance. Let's start with Honorable Munyima, then Honorable Samakai, and Honorable. I'll come to you, sir, in the next round. Okay, Honorable Munyima.
Thank you very much, Chairperson and Honorable Minister. Thank you for your submission. I think for me, the concern is on CDF. Part of the reason why spending has been a problem is that the quarterly release has not been followed. I will give you an example in my constituency. As of last year, in December, we had already sat as a committee and planned for expenditure, inclusive of this year allocation, entire allocation. But last year, the release of CDF, the last release came in December. I think should be the second week, almost the last week of December. So you'll find that in addition to what you are saying, that the red tape with local government, which is true, and that the Office of the Attorney General, which approves contracts, has not been decentralized. The issue with spending is also affected by the Ministry of Finance not releasing the money every quarter. So I don't know, Honorable Minister, how that can be addressed, because even this year now, we are in this is July, and I think the complete amount has not been released for the first quarter. I submit.
Thank you. Honorable Samakai.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much, Minister, for your submission. My question is on, not really a question, I think a response to the information that you are seeking from the members of Parliament as to the utilization of the school grants. I want to confirm to you that I posted this information the moment you asked us, and the response I'm getting, in fact, most of it from heads of schools. They are saying the money is being misused, and this is in collaboration with the district education board secretaries who are debs. So if you asked, yes, this money is not doing its intended purpose. But as to exactly which schools, I will get back to you this afternoon. But the money is being misused.
Dr. Kalila.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and I would like to start from the beginning of this process by first of all indicating to the Honourable Minister that as members of Parliament, we are very elated by the fact that for the first time we are participating not only first in the crafting of the 8th National Development Plan by way of approval, as you are aware. Secondly, we are also participating in the review process in trying to see how the plan itself is being implemented. And I think that is very positive, because what that means is that together we are able to track and see how the development of our nation is going. In other words, we are in it together. Having said that, the plan in the last 1 year, as we have seen it, at least from my side, is that we have made some strides in some areas, and that in some areas the results have been mixed, particularly on the first pillar, which is economic transformation and job creation. We saw that some of the indicators there we are not doing as well as we would have expected, particularly in the 4 key priority areas of mining, agriculture, tourism, and I forget the other one. So the question is that from the mining side, we all understand what is going on, perhaps not to buttress the point further. But from manufacturing and tourism, which is largely private sector driven, what are some of the challenges that have affected the smooth implementation of the plan, leading to some of the indicators not being as they should have been? And the other one, because of the ministers asked us to make a comment with respect to this education issue, I would like to equally join my colleague's chair by stating that we as members of parliament have spent most of our last 2 years implementing CDF, and we have been running with this issue even when we've been receiving information from the education sector. Personally, myself, I was told by one teacher that at our school, the head, when the money comes, instead of calling all of us as the guidelines we receive, we just see that he makes a trip, then one moment when he comes back, he has bought things for his shop and all these things. And now you see we are constrained to question him, but we believe that something should be done. I said, well, for us, for now, we are dealing more with the Minister of Local Government because we deal with our councils. So I was quite happy to see last evening when you posted that. I said, this matter has finally reached. So it's not only happening in my constituency, it means it's everywhere else. So what I feel is that we looked too much into CDF and lagged behind in the Ministry of Education, where you pumped in quite a lot of money. And it's quite right that now we need to look at both. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honourable Minister, can you respond to those?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Let me take the questions in the reverse order. On the economic transformation, indeed, in the key areas of mining, manufacturing, and agriculture, we have not seen strong growth. I think for agriculture, it's obvious because this dependence on weather, which we need to change. Mining, I think we all know, but I want to give some hope here on mining. Obviously, part of the problem about mining is the doldrums facing the 2 major mining companies, that is Mopani and KCM. I repeat, I think we are very close to getting those sorted out. Very, very close. I think, let me not give you a date, but I can assure you that we are very close. So I think we should see improvements in that, because these are the 2 biggest mining companies in Zambia. KCM and Mopane. The fact that they've been facing these problems, meant that copper output has suffered. But what I can also say that beyond the two existing mining companies, some of which, like First Quantum, there are programs right now to expand. Okay, that 1.3 billion of new investment that was announced last year, that is being implemented as we speak right now. And the new nickel mine, which will be the biggest in Africa, as we speak right now, implementation is taking place. Okay, implementation is taking place. And of course, the other thing is that exploration is picked up. Exploration is picked up. It's just that mining sector, by the time you start the activities to the point when you start digging the actual mineral, it takes some time. But I think for me, what is really very important is that these preliminary activities have started. When the new mining companies like First Quantum and Lumwana started, it was exactly like this. First was talk, next exploration, next preliminaries, then output. So this is exactly what we are seeing now. The exploration has been picking up. I think this year in the budget we'll do something, we'll make pronouncement about how to activate the economic zones, special economic zones, how to create conditions that will make them to be populated fast. It's not enough to zone off an area and say this is a special economic zone. What is most important is that that zone must be populated with the companies. So this year we are going to take extra steps to ensure that these special economic zones are populated fast. And of course, in doing this, we're following in the footsteps of what others have done who have ended up being successful. The likes of Vietnam, the likes of China itself, the likes of the Asian tigers. It is all about creating conditions that are friendly to investments coming in to do the investment. And so this is what we're going to focus, and I'm sure with that we should see faster population, faster investment, and more job creation in the manufacturing sector. Agriculture, of course, you've heard us talk about the farm blocks over and over. Right now, details and designs are being taken. And what is a farm block? A farm block is just another special economic zone where, again, rules, regulation, and so forth will be made attractive, infrastructure will be provided. The ultimate is to push large-scale agriculture. Large-scale agriculture, because if we are going to make agriculture to be export-oriented, you can't be export-oriented by using a hoe and planting 1 or 2 acres of beans. Because your friends who are active participants on the export market for these crops, they're using high technology, which means they are more productive, which means they can afford to deliver commodities cheaper. This is why sometimes you see South African maize or mealie meal moving through Zambia to DRC. Why is that so? Because their maize is cheaper than ours. So they can outcompete us. Why is their maize cheaper than ours? Because they use technology and enjoy large scale economies of large scale. So if we shut ourselves from that and hope we'll expand production to export using hoes and things like that, then we are just deceiving ourselves. But this does not mean that this is against small-scale production, because the export sector will be in a few limited areas, maybe wheat, maybe soybean, maybe things like that. But what that does is actually it supports the small-scale farming. You recall, some of you, when the two big hotels in Livingston were starting, the Sun, those days, there was serious opposition from local lodge owners. No, they are going to take our market, blah, 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 blah. What happened? The very opposite happened. Because these people, the large-scale people, they were able to draw in large quantities of people. Some of the people who came ended up going into the small lodges and hotels. So everyone is benefited. In the case of agriculture, the economics of it works like what you see in the mining sector. What you see in the mining sector is that when miners have been paid, the chicken farmer there becomes happy. The tomato farmer becomes happy. The farmer of rape becomes happy, because there is somebody who has been paid money who can buy their items. But that new buying power need not necessarily come from mining. That buying power can also come from exports of agricultural commodities. That buying power can come from export of agricultural commodities. When Zambia sugar is exported, their sugar, they pay those workers there. What happens? The workers of the plantation have a lot of money in their pockets. They can go and buy a local chicken. They can go and buy a fish from the local fish farmer. So the two work in tandem. If you don't push them in tandem, what you see that the small-scale producers who produce tomato, it will rot because there will be no market. They'll produce cabbage, it will rot because there will be no market. So the two, large-scale production and small-scale, must move together to support each other. On the CDF, Honorable Mnyima, the information that I have so far, first of all, for 2022, all of it was without exception. For 2023, first quarter, 1.1 billion kwacha has been released. 1.1 billion kwacha has been released. This money was released to, I think the issue here is that sometimes the money is funded to local government, then for administrative reasons, which they are best placed to explain, the money is not released to their constituencies. I can assure you that CDF money will always be released in full. The issue now is this red tape that we are all fighting against. I'm happy that on our side is the Treasury. The red tapes that were associated with us, we've totally dismantled those. You recall previously we used to say before any CDF project is signed off, the Treasury must give approval to say there's money. Now, that of course created a lot of delays. Initially we said, okay, the Treasury will no longer say yes to every contract. This is being decentralized to the provincial, local government officers. So if you're in Sananga, you don't take your papers to the ST, you take it to provincial financial officer in Mongo. But we noticed that even that was still causing problems. So as we stand now, there is no longer any requirement for Treasury Authority for any CDF project. the council secretary is 100% delegated with authority to say, yes, there's money, we are proceeding with this, without consulting the ST, without consulting the provincial government. Totally decentralized. Totally decentralized. So at least that element is what we've gotten rid of that. I think the other issues, I think they are contained in the bill that the minister will bring to Parliament to streamline. But there's also one other thing. The good thing is that I'm also an MP like all of us here. The attitudes of the council staff. The attitudes of the council staff. We can break all these laws and regulations and so forth, but if those council staff have their own ways of behaving, delaying things, then we will not make much progress. So we have to work together with you, honorable members. Let's work together. Bring forth your suggestions of what we need to do to make sure that our councils are responsive. Whether it is us members of parliament going back in the councils, whether it is us having a say on the promotion and demotion of council staff, because we are the ones that they are serving. We are the ones that you are serving. So please put forward your suggestions. We can break down these negative attitudes that sometimes we see in our council staff. I think I've answered the 3 questions.
Okay. Okay, honorable members, so I have got 2 hands already. Honorable Musanje, Honorable Mungandu. Okay, let me take you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kasama, so that we balance the agenda and you'll be the first one to start. So you can ask. Then don't worry, Honorable members, I think we still have adequate time. Just reduce on the questions. In fact, a preamble now before we start. One question per member. I'll give you as much time as, but 1 person per member, and be brief so that we have enough time to cater for the minister. Honorable Muganda, are you with me? 1 question and be brief. Okay, Honorable Member for Kasama, you can start.
Thank you, Chairperson. Honorable Minister, you have just spoken about the attitude of the council workers, which you have also noted. You have entrusted the council workers, not you directly, but through local government, with huge amounts of money. In my constituency, they are in salary arrears, but we still have entrusted them with that money. Then how do we also expect the decentralization process to be effective if council workers have a bad attitude and they have their own habits and ways of doing things? Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Musanje.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Honorable Minister, and once more congratulations for the excellent work you are doing. Just to touch base on the issues of which you have talked about, the CDF, I think one of the things is lack of KPIs for the council workers, which are not in their job descriptions and the like. Then the issue of procurement. It remains a big issue. I think it's in your ministry, ZPP something, Zambia Procurement Agency, which remains the localization is still not understood in the councils. And my actual question is, when are we going to have the implementation plan for the National Development Plan? My understanding is that every year, the implementation plan will have targets for year 1, year 2, year up to year 5, which will help us to measure the progress which we are making as a country. But this implementation plan is not available for us to be able to scrutinize the 8th National Development Plan in terms of progress being made annually. So when are we going to have that? That's my first question.
Thank you. Honorable Mwandu.
Thank you. I'll start with a comment, then a question, Chair. The first one, Honorable Minister, thank you for your clarification. I want to find out, you've stated on the CDF, indeed,